Something you probably want to know more about are the Covenants, and which ones work best on the Shadow Priest. Want to reduce you and your allies' major ability cooldowns? Want to generate insanity whenever the boss deals damage? There certainly seems to be some which are very strong, while others seem pretty promising as well. So let's go ahead and have a look. Hey guys, it's Angelo, and today we'll be taking a closer look at the Covenant abilities and which ones are currently the ones to most likely be picked by a Shadow Priest on the World of Warcraft Shadowlands Beta. The Covenants in Shadowlands are very similar to the Order Halls and class themes of Legion, with each Covenant having their own base of operations, mission table, soulbinds, and even unique conduits. The most interesting though are the Covenant abilities, split into the Covenant class ability and a Covenant signature ability, both of which we'll be diving into in this video. And of course, every Covenant ability have their different, or rather has its different effect on your gameplay. Keep in mind that everything you are about to see is still in development, meaning that it is of course still subject to change. The Covenants in and of themselves are pretty set in stone though already, and I highly doubt that we will be seeing any defining changes to the Covenant abilities at this point, but still just keep that in mind. If you want to join the discussion with anything Shadowlands related, then be sure to check the link in the description box below and join our Discord. And if this video will be helpful for you, please don't forget to leave a like at the end. Alright, now with that addressed and without any further ado, let's go right ahead and have a look. Okay, so I think it's best if we give ourselves a little summary of the Covenants and their abilities before discussing them. Let's start off with the Covenant of the Kyrians, located in Bastion with their seat in the Elysian Hold. The Kyrians are steadfast guardians of the afterlife who bear the souls of the dead into the Shadowlands. Eternally devoted to duty and service, only the worthy may enter their ranks. The Kyrian signature ability is Summon Stewards, which is on a 5-minute cooldown and calls your steward to bring you a file that can be consumed, restoring 15% of your health and removing all curse, disease, poison, and bleed effects. Your steward will also give you other little extras once per day. The class ability of the priest is the Boon of the Ascended, which is on a 3-minute cooldown, and you draw upon the power of the Ascended for 10 seconds, granting you Ascended Nova, which will replace your Mind Flay, and Ascended Blast, which is a new spell in your bar, while your movement speed is also increased by 50%. Once the boon expires, you release an Ascended Eruption, exploding for arcane damage to all enemies within 15 yards and healing all allies within the same radius, increased by 3% for each stack of Boon of the Ascended. Now, you stack this boon up by using its abilities, so both the Ascended Blast and the Nova, with the latter giving you 1 stack for every enemy struck by its use, and the Blast giving you 5 stacks per use, meaning you can stack the boon quite high if there's enough mobs around you. All in all, this Covenant is not bad, but it's certainly not the best at the moment. Okay, let's move on to the Necrolords. The Covenant with the Necrolords is centered around strength and combat, while weakness is cast aside. Their base of operations is the seat of the Primus in Maldraxxus, where the souls of the ambitious and contentious are forged into an immortal army charged with the defense of all of the Shadowlands. The Necrolord's signature ability is called Fleshcraft, and forms a shield of flesh and bone over a channel time of 4 seconds that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum health for 2 minutes. Now channeling Fleshcraft near a corpse claims their essence to grow the shield up to 50% of your maximum health. This effect is at its maximum effect when channeled near powerful enemies, so elite mobs, strong rare mobs, or even bosses. Fleshcraft is on a 2-minute cooldown and, as we're able to see, a rather defensive-oriented signature ability. The class ability for the priest from this Covenant is the Unholy Nova, which is on a 1-minute cooldown and releases an explosion of dark energy that heals allies within 15 yards and infects enemies with Unholy Transfusion. This Unholy Transfusion then deals shadow damage over the course of 15 seconds. Allies who damage an affected target are healed for a small amount. Unholy Nova can be pretty strong in an AoE situation where you have to bomb mobs down, and it does support your group through its leech effect. Apart from this, it gives us no real rotational benefit, which is very unfortunate, and it also forces us into melee range, which is also not really that good. Its radius of 15 yards is comparatively small, so we can't really stand as far away from incoming damage as possible, and will always be forced to either move into close range, which requires movement which we may not want to do or rather would want to avoid, or just stay in close proximity to the enemy, which, again, is risky because of incoming abilities. Okay, let's take a look at the Venthyr. The Venthyr are aristocratic overseers of souls burdened with the excessive pride and wickedness. They guide the troubled souls upon their rigorous path of atonement, harvesting anima to keep their realm strong and prosperous. Their base of operations is Sinfall, located in the far west of Revendreth, and their signature ability is the Door of Shadows. When activating it, you will cast a teleport which wends you through the shadows, appearing at your targeted location. This plays like the Void Elf class ability, or rather the race ability, or like a casted version of a Blink, and is on a 1-minute cooldown. This ability is great for Mythic Plus, and has its strength in various other types of content of course as well. The Venthyr Priest class ability is called Mind Games. You will assault an enemy's mind, dealing shadow damage and briefly reversing their perception of reality. For 5 seconds, the next set amount of damage they deal will heal their target instead of damaging them, and the next set amount of healing they do will instead damage their target, essentially reversing both of these effects. Now here comes the interesting part. Their reverse damage or healing generates up to 40 insanity for you, and the ability is on a 45-second cooldown. In single target situations, this grants you an extra insanity generator every 45 seconds, which of course is very nice to have. Unfortunately though, this ability has absolutely no multi-target interactions, which does reduce its strength somewhat. Now overall though, this is a very nice ability, but let's go ahead and take a look at our final covenant, the Night Fae. The Night Fae have their home in the heart of the forest in Ardenweald, where they tend to fallen nature spirits who slumber within the tranquil forest. Those with a deep bond to nature may join their cause, ensuring that the rejuvenated spirits can one day rejoin the eternal cycle. The Covenant of the Night Fae grant you Soul Shape as a signature ability, which transforms you into a Vulpin, increasing your movement speed by 30%. You may reactivate the ability to teleport 10 yards forward. This lasts 12 seconds, but indefinitely while within a rested area. It's instant cast and on a nice 1.5 minute cooldown. This is an ability which is utility or movement oriented, very similar to the Venthyr signature ability, and can definitely help you out in Mythic Plus, more so when moving from one pack to another, as priests have a low baseline mobility anyway. The Night Fae's class ability for us is Fey Blessings. Fey Blessings allows the next 10 spells cast for specific spells to aid ourselves and or allies with various effects, depending on the abilities used. Power Word Shield invigorates the target with 2% mana or 20% of their resource, in our case that will be Insanity. Shadow Mend reduces an ally's damage taken by 10% for 15 seconds, and Void Bolt reduces the cooldowns of up to 5 allies' major abilities by 3 seconds, and this can also include yourself. This ability in and of itself can be incredibly strong, and depending on the type of content you do, so Mythic Plus or Raids for example, can have a fundamental impact on your game. I've addressed the effects of Fey Blessings in our rotation in my last video. It should pop up on your screen now if you want to watch it later, but we will have to discuss it again once more because it certainly has its downsides. Okay, now that we've summed up all of the Covenant abilities, let's get into the details. Currently, all Covenant choices for the Shadow Priest seem similarly underwhelming. The Kyrian ability Boon of the Ascended has no real value to our rotation or gameplay and doesn't fit into our playstyle at all. If we use it in Void form, we'll be thrown out of it because it doesn't generate any insanity except when using Ascended Blast, which is on a 2-second cooldown and only generates 12 insanity, which means we'll essentially have to continue our regular rotation. But if we use it while not in Void form, we lose precious build-up time because we want to build up stacks of Boon of the Ascended. Sure, its damage is quite nice, and it offers a nice buff to the healing output, but this Covenant is certainly more centered towards healers. It's arguably the best Covenant choice for Discipline Priests, but not so much for Shadow. It gets outshined in single target output by mind games from the Venthyr, and in multi-target situations, the Necrolords and their Unholy Nova is arguably better. Which brings us to our next Covenant to discuss here, the Necrolords. For Mythic Plus, this Covenant can potentially be a very good choice for us, as its damage output is pretty nice, and the leech it provides is also pretty cool. It provides no direct enhancement to our gameplay, as it doesn't generate any insanity or helps our rotation otherwise, but since it's an instant cast and is only castable once every minute, it doesn't interfere negatively with our rotation either. The only downside to the Unholy Nova once more is the fact that you'll have to move into close range of the enemies, which can be a bit annoying to be honest. Apart from that though, again, this is a comparatively good pick for Mythic Plus. The Venthyr Covenant is strong on single target, but really only on single target. Its effect needs to be used up completely, which is something you may also not be able to do on Trash, which limits it to bosses, and again single target use only. The 40 insanity gain from mind games is pretty nice though, and feels very satisfying at least, and this may very well be the go-to Covenant ability if you will be raiding mostly. Which brings us to our final Covenant, and that is the Night Fae Covenant. Fae Blessings is the absolute must-pick Covenant in situations where it is able to proc on you and on your allies, but falls flat very quickly when the guarantee that it procs on you or on important allies is not given. Keep in mind that Fae Blessings can also reduce the cooldown of abilities from pets, and can currently even jump onto totems or guardian pets, nullifying the effect completely. If Fae Blessings stays the way it is currently, it's highly questionable if it will be picked because of the way it works, but if it will always trigger on you, it will be incredibly strong and runs risk of being a must-pick Covenant. At this point it is nearly impossible to rank all of the Covenants and their abilities in the classical sense because all of them have their drawbacks and no single benefit is strong enough to justify their use at all times. I will therefore withhold my final judgment for a few months longer until we've come to a final conclusion with these Covenants. If everything stays the way it is currently, then it almost boils down completely to personal preference. All have their benefits for you in their accordingly strong situations, but none truly anything about the way you play, or rather none change anything about the way you play, except of course for Fae Blessings, but only if it actually procs consistently on yourself. Now I could talk about Covenants all day, because there's still a lot to discuss, but I don't want to make the video too long and keep it constructive for you. What do you think? How are you feeling about the Covenants currently? Do you think we'll be forced into a specific direction? Do you think we'll be able to truly decide which Covenant we want to be joining? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if this video was helpful to you, be sure to leave a like. I'm still a little on the fence, and I do hope that Blizzard will change the Covenants a bit more in order to make their effect on our gameplay a bit more impactful, but then again that could in fact cause problems and force us down a certain path. It's difficult to say at the moment, but I'll be sure to keep you updated on the matter. As always, thank you very much for watching, and if you wish to remain updated on the content of my channel, feel free to subscribe. A special thanks to my supporters over at Patreon, and let's continue hoping and giving feedback so that Shadowlands will become the expansion we all wish for it to be. Alright, now have a good one my friends, get excited for Shadowlands, and I will see you all in the next one.